Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Coaching Youth Hoops Podcast.
They're playing basketball.
Here's our hosts, Steve Collins, and Bill Flitter.
And that now, okay, so go back to that one now. So you got the ball comes in in the corner. Okay, so now pause right there. So what is the alignment? You had mentioned you're kind of playing that looks like this tall guy at the bottom of the screen there, and then you have your player, right there. He's about mid-court. Obviously, the lower player did not do that trap because he's coming from the front, like you mentioned before. Okay, so talk about the kind of the spacing of your players, because I think this is a good visual of that.
Yeah, so we actually cut the court into 4 vertical quarters, we call them.
Okay.
So, the volleyball, like every court we play on has a volleyball line. So we say from the volleyball line to the sideline on both sides is an outside quarter. And then from the volleyball line to the rim line, sometimes there is a rim line there, like a mid line. Yeah. Those are inside quarters. So we say visually, because this might be the most important thing after ball pressure. We need ball pressure in our press, and we need everybody in their quarters as quickly as possible, depending on where the ball is. So right now, the ball's in an outside quarter. Now they're clearing out, so it's a little bit different. So we have a different way that we attack the clear out. If they weren't clearing out, like say this guy was staying here, because the ball's in an outside quarter, I need everybody on that half of the floor. So I need these. So these, regardless of where your guy is. So if your man is out here, I don't care. You need to be on the midline. Okay. All of us have a foot on that half of the court, so we shrink the floor. If the ball's in an inside quarter, if the ball's in an inside quarter, one of these two, then I need all 5 guys with at least a foot on that inside quarter. So, it's an easy way. We just you'll hear us yell, even in the clips, you can hear us yell like midline or quarters. And so then the guys know that no matter where your man is, you got to see where the ball is, and that's where your alignment is. And then we hear our principal there, they clear out. So he comes back and forces the action. This is one of the concepts we teach. And so he knows that his job is to get him in a speed dribble, ideally out of the middle of the floor, get him to turn his back because he knows his teammates coming to trap. And right here, he gets.
And who is that? Where did that player come from?
So he was right. So he's
how
right.
does he? Why is he the one? How is he designated the one?
He shouldn't be. It actually.
Okay.
Because like we said, we try to be perfect as we can, but the way we teach if there's a clear out that we call force the action. We're gonna force the action with the last guy to leave. So technically it should be
it should be the guy, okay.
Should be this
That's
guy.
what I thought. I thought that's what you said in your clip, and then that makes a lot of sense.
But
I like that.
Yeah, he just decided he was gonna go for it. I mean, he did lead the state in steals for a reason. So he takes the blind spot and goes right for it and gets a clean steal.
Nice,
I think the end of quarters.
That's a lot of practice. Okay, I get that. What about you had mentioned also coming from behind. Now, what we
Back
Well,
to
we call those a pinch and tip, right? So we're looking for the first person on the ball to be we call it the pincher, basically slowing the ball down,
Mhm.
maybe trying to do a turn, and then the next person behind is the tipper. So, and that's something we practice every day.
Yeah.
And obviously, our press is called the pinch and tip press, because
Okay.
that's what we're always looking for, the pinch and tips, right? Coming from behind, that person who is guarding the ball coming up. I'm not
Right.
saying we're perfect at it, and I like some of your principles here. That's what I called you to say.
Yeah.
I want to learn. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, talk if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah. Back tipping. So I think in the thread, I said that if you do it right, most
Hmm.
of your forced turnovers, your steals should come from what we call back tipping.
Okay.
Um, Basically, if you're behind the ball, you're wrong. Our guys need to be in front of the ball, but inevitably it's going to happen, whether it's by the
Hmm.
pass, by the dribble. But
Yep.
when the ball's in front of you, you are sprinting to level the ball. And if the ball's in front of you, if you can, your job is to run through the ball and back tip to people in front. And kind of like you said, people,
Hmm.
if you're in front of that ball on a speed dribble, you need to be stunning at him or her and slowing them down so that your teammates behind can not only recover but also make a play on the ball and back tip. And here's a good example here. I think this is on a missed shot. Um, but again, like this kid is super fast that we have. He's pretty special speed, so not every kid can do this, but
Hmm.
just like
Hmm.
good. So like this kid, he's out here outnumbered. I got four guys behind the ball, so we're in trouble
Hmm.
right now. So
Yeah.
we could be in a dead sprint, which he does.
Oh yeah.
Back
Oh,
tips
perfect.
right to his man, and then we get a
Yeah.
fast break layup out of it. So what should have been a 3-on-1 ended up turning into a layup for us. I think it just kind of encapsulates how important that concept is for us if we get behind the ball. Same kid here, putting good ball pressure. He gets in front of them.
Hmm.
A lot of times, like, and we tell guys, like, when we show it on film,
Yeah.
sometimes ball handlers, when they get by the trap or a level of pressure, they have a tendency to relax. They kind of straighten up a little bit. They slow their dribble. They're looking around. And that's when, if we're
Oh yeah.
really chasing the way we should be able to get plays like this.
Well, because they don't want to be sped up. He's looking for an outlet and getting the.
Right.
Yeah, that's. Can you go back to that though?
Yeah.
I'm curious too how you teach. Um, okay, so this guy gets beat. Okay, right there. Like, okay,
Mhm.
so well, he's got two people in front now. Let's say those guys were. I mean, well, they shouldn't be, I guess, in your press. But is there? I'd be worried about, and again, this is just me, that,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, if I go for that steal, right?
Mhm.
And I don't get it, right? He's gonna get that pass off, and versus, okay, I'm gonna get in front of him at least. How are you balancing that? You hear what I'm saying?
Oh, the guy behind him?
Yeah, the guy behind him, right? He's going for that steal. I mean, that's
Right.
on his mind, right?
Right, right,
Now,
right.
maybe because he does have that special speed and he knows, right?
Yeah. Well, and we tell the guys, like, on the back tipping,
Hmm.
we tell them you're running through, and if you don't tip the ball, that's okay. You're running through into our half court defense. So then you're running through and you're
Oh,
matching up.
okay. Yeah.
So it's not like they're back tipping and then sticking to them, unless that's your man. If you're behind the
Mm.
level of the ball, you're running through, and then you may run through, swing and miss, and then go match up with an open receiver down the floor.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
then, or if we're in zone in the half court, then you go fill your spot in the zone. So we just demand our guys back to. We do a really simple drill at the beginning of practice, like 2-3 times a week. We call
Hmm.
back to score. It's literally just three players. We have a guy
Hmm.
dribble. We have a teammate chase him or her down. We teach to back tip with your inside hand so that you
Yep.
have fouls. And
Yep.
then tip to their teammate who's in front. They turn and run. We pitch ahead. We shoot a layup. Really simple, not anything tough, but kind of instilling that habit and that
Yep.
mentality in our kids, teaching them the mechanics of it. And then we try to incorporate in other drills too, kind of like we talked about. Like we might start a full court live drill where a trap's been broken and they have to try to chase and back tip, and we tell the ball handler, you can't pass until you get to half court. So then they have to dribble, and then the guys have to chase, and they have a chance to make a play. So then by the time you get in the game,
Mhm.
um, hopefully it's a habit, it's instilled in them. They kind of, naturally do that. And then when they do it in a game, we try to celebrate it. We try to really clip it in
Mm.
film. and praise those guys. We track them,
Yeah,
and
it's a good idea.
I'm a big believer in what gets tracked gets done. So if
Yeah.
we track the things that we want, taking charges, crashing the O boards, getting back tips, that sort of thing. So I think it's a lot of things all together that hopefully instills these habits. And it some days we did it great, and some days it wasn't very good at all. So like anything else, but
Right.
I had the luxury of clipping and picking and choosing which clips. There's plenty others where we didn't look very good at all. So when you see these,
There
when you see
goes
it
another
looks like
tip.
we see it looks like we're terrific, but that certainly wasn't always the case with us.
So on those tips, when I guess what's your rule, your thoughts on, okay, when am I just going to get back into defense? If I'm behind the ball, I'm
Mhm.
sprinting up the court. As soon as I cross half court, then we stop tipping, or are you encouraging it? As long as I'm going into the direction where I'm supposed to fill, or obviously, or if this is my guy I'm supposed to catch up to,
Mhm.
I'm gonna tip.
Yeah, I'm thinking generally like before they cross half court, but even sometimes if they're behind the ball and a guy's in front of them and they relax, like maybe around here, the volleyball line, and they were running through, like just because we've instilled the habit and because we emphasize it, guys do it even in our half court defense, just because that's kind of what
Yeah.
we've implemented in them. But I would say typically we think the press is off when they're on a speed dribble and they're crossing half court, usually, and they don't have a defender on their hip. Usually the press is off, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just trying to what we call fix it, just try to get back to
Yeah.
neutral. Because right now the
Yeah.
offense is an advantage, so we try to fix that advantage. Because you see right here, this is like a sideline inbound, and he
Yeah.
kept in front of him on a full run, but our guy chases him
Oh, you
from
got it.
behind and is able to
Mm-hmm.
force that turnover. Um, it's so I guess there's
How
not.
often? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how often though are you getting I mean, just thrown over the top? Now, we
Mhm.
have we have water polo players, okay, and they'll throw the length of the court, not a problem,
Uh-huh.
right? And I played against a team that was known for their press as well. They did a run and jump press,
Hmm.
and so they had, they were pretty far forward.
Hmm.
So the way we set ours up, I just, somebody moved back. I had my water polo player take the ball out, and she just threw it deep a few times. Now they did adjust to that, but um, how often are you seeing the throw over the top?
It happens.
Yeah.
I think it happened more the first maybe month and a half of the season, uh,
Hmm.
because we as coaches adjusted too. When teams didn't really have film on us at the very
Yeah.
beginning, it wasn't really happening. And then when they had time to prepare, I think a lot of coaches just kind of concluded like, well, they face guard, so we can just throw over the top. And we
Right.
love playing teams like that because they realized it wasn't that easy. It was kind of like what I said earlier.
Okay.
We found that like on live ball. So if it's off a made bucket or off a miss, almost never. I can't remember a
Off a
time.
made bucket or a
Yeah.
miss, you're not getting thrown because they don't,
No, because
yeah.
it's really hard. I mean, they're picking it up. The count's already started. We have a guy on the ball. They're not
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
organized, the other team, unless we just completely drop the ball, and that's more on us than them
Yeah.
being excellent. It's more like if we just left somebody open way down the floor. But that would usually happen if they had time to set up the press break, like off a dead ball or maybe off of a timeout. If we were
Okay.
starting, and we did get burned by that a couple times. So then
Yeah.
we adjusted to a lot of times on dead balls, especially later in the season when we were playing some of the top tier opponents. If they had time to set their press break, we would go to our 55 off.
Okay.
And the guys that were guarding the attackers, a lot of times we wouldn't face guard as much. We would more go to the side of them, kind of either deny or just put a lot of pressure on it, but not as much full face guarding, just because they had time then to set up and look to go long. And especially
Okay.
if we took a guy off the ball, then the inbounder obviously is a little more comfortable. They can wind up and throw a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but but essentially the press is the exact same. It's just the initial lineup that looked different. So
Okay.
sometimes opponents thought we were running 2, 3 different presses, and it was all the same press. We would just do different alignments. We had another press alignment that we would use if they had a dominant point guard, where we would
Mm.
take the guy off the ball and essentially play the guard or the lead guard, whomever it is, in the front and the back to try to make somebody else handle the ball. Um,
Okay.
And again,
That
that
makes
looks like a
sense.
different
Yeah.
press, but they're all the same.
The same.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, honestly, not as much as you would think. Like the over the top, that wasn't really the problem with me. I think what burned us was when we didn't do a good job on the ball and we got blown by. That was bigger issue. And that was
Yeah.
more about us just being good on the ball, making sure we're moving our feet and we're not giving away ticky-tack fouls and we're rotating off the ball. Like that was more of a concern than throwing over the top. A lot of times, like teams would throw over the top and they throw out of bounds or go close to turning it over. And anytime that happened, they stopped doing it. Like almost every, like
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
early in the season, like our guys were hesitant. Like sometimes they would bring guys all the way up here and we tell our guys like play all the way up here. Like we want to bait that long pass. Like we want them to try to throw
Okay.
under duress. We want them to try to do that because as soon as they throw one away, they're not doing it anymore. Like even if their coach tells them to, they're really going to hesitate to do that. So we felt the trade-off, like, yeah, we might give up easy buckets, but let's say we give up 3-4 easy buckets, so we give up 6 or 8 points. But if we're creating 18, 20 points off of turnovers or off of pace, I'll take that trade-off.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now the guy on the ball,
Mhm.
I've seen some, and not your guys I'm speaking to, but just in general. I mean, you're teaching them to be extremely active. Is
Yes.
that correct? Yeah. So they have to be jumping around and
Yes.
okay. And then the rotation, who is the guy on the ball closest to the ball? Is that your just guard somebody close to the ball?
Yes.
Or
So
I'm sorry, guard closest to the player. And if
yes.
it's you're right there on the inbounder, then that's the guy you're guarding. Is
Yeah.
that
So
generally?
yeah. So on a made bucket, closest guy, we put an emphasis on quick pickup. That's what we call it. Just
Okay.
the
I
closest
like that quick
person.
pickup. Yeah.
Yep. So I don't care who's on the ball. I don't care who's on the guards. Just get somebody, get there as quick as possible. Now, as you do it more, your bigs will naturally go back here. Your guards will stay here and pick up someone closest to the ball. So that just becomes ingrained in them. But if
Hmm.
if there's a dead ball or if there's a stop and play,
Yeah.
and we can or when we're pressing off a free throw, we can then we kind of dictate who we want on the ball, who we want up, and then we kind of
Okay. Yeah,
move around a
that
little
makes
more.
sense.
But the emphasis in live play off buckets and off misses is just getting matched up as quickly as possible. I mean, our half court defense, we switch everything anyway, so guards guarding bigs and vice versa is a big
Yeah.
deal for us. We always tell guys like mismatches don't beat us, open shots beat us. So we
Right.
want to make a
Right.
spot on the floor
Uh,
has never scored a point in the game of the basketball. It's always the man with the ball. So as long as we have them all covered, we can figure it out through our rotations and all of that. So just emphasizing getting people on the ball and then getting people matched up. Like right here, this is our quote unquote center, and he's guarding a guard right here just because he's the closest guy. Whereas I have like our point guard back here guarding one of their wings, just because that's where they were on the court. But it
it,
ends up really well for us.
okay. Yeah, no, that's good because that you have to transition fast, obviously. Or cover someone quickly, I should say. Uh,
Right.
what else did I not ask you that is important on the setup? That's one question number one. And if I'm a youth coach, break it down for me. Where should I start?
If you're a youth coach, I always start with one-on-one with the individual, and then we build up from there. Um,
What does that look like?
so for us, we talk about our on-ball responsibilities. So we do some kind of full court one-on-one every single day. Uh,
Okay.
where we'll match up and we make our practices very competitive. We keep time and score for everything. So
Nice.
I'm a big believer in uh, competitiveness, playing harder skills. I think some
Hmm.
coaches still say, well, they should play hard and they should be competitive. I say, yeah, they should, but reality is like not all kids are all the time. If they are,
No.
great. If not, we have to teach them that. So
Right.
we compete. We play full court one-on-one. We have drills where they play one-on-one and they have to get a certain amount of turns before they get to the other baseline. And if they don't, then
Oh,
if they don't,
okay.
offense wins. If they do, defense wins.
And
And they
what's the
keep
consequence? I'm just curious what you
um
do. Is there
um
consequences or are you
sometimes we'll do push-ups, sometimes it's
yeah,
running.
yeah.
If we're doing team versus team, then we'll put the full scores to the team for the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we'll track winners and losers. So you put a consequence. some accountability from your teammates. I think that's
Yeah.
a big deal for that.
In
So
in in that particular drill too. So if you're counting turns and you're trying to do that, right? Or I'm sorry, are you counting the number of turns, or do they have to get 3 turns before they hit half court or 6 turns full court, whatever it might be?
yeah, they count the turns, or we're there to hold them accountable to make sure that
Yeah,
they're actually getting turns. You know how kids are sometimes, but yeah,
sure.
they have to get a certain amount of turns before they get to the baseline. So offense knows they have to get to the baseline ideally without getting turned once, and defense knows they have to get a certain amount of turns without fouling before they get there. And it just like again, it just kind of instills that habit. It teaches them how to get turns without fouling, how
Yeah,
to move their body, how to go from a slide into a sprint,
right. Hmm.
because it's a little bit of both, and being able to do that, getting them to turn in certain spots. And that's the one-on-one component. And then we build it up to two-on-two, where they learn when and where to trap that turn.
Hmm.
To do if they get beat to the middle. We don't want to trap in the middle of the floor as much as possible. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it does, but
Yeah,
as much as possible, we do what we call a jump switch, where if they're beat off the dribble to the
yeah.
middle, that next guy, instead of becoming a trapper, he runs and stops them. The on-ball defender keeps running and takes away that next person. So essentially,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and then we'll build up to 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5. So, but we start with the individual, and then we do go whole part whole, where I'll
Okay.
talk about the overarching goals of the press.
Yeah.
I'll talk about what we do not want to do when we don't want to trap. I think that's very important, because a bad trap will beat you worse than not trapping at all.
Yeah.
We try to hammer home, we're not trapping up the sideline. We're not going to trap where they can see us coming. Um, I don't want 0 people on the ball, and I don't want 3. So I don't want 2 people running to trap. So we try to make sure that that's hammered out. So once we show them the whole thing, then we build it up 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. And then we incorporate it in our live drills when we're playing up and down, whatever it is. And then we try to incorporate as many drills as we can, just to build the habit in them. But then even when the kids have a grasp on it, we never go away from reteaching those fundamentals and still using those same drills. They just become a little bit less explanatory and more reinforcing those
Yeah.
habits.
And going back to the one-on-one baseline to baseline drill, are you then saying, okay, you got to stay within the volleyball court or within your quarters that you talk about? Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one-on-one, we give them from the lane line extended down the floor to the sideline. So, right there,
Lane line. Oh, okay. The
yeah,
the
yeah,
the,
yeah, the lane
the
line,
yeah.
and we'll even put cones in practice down here.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
kids have a visual until the sideline, and we tell the kids, because then kids like, I don't know why, but offensive players always dribble out of bounds. Like they'll go out of bounds and just dribble all the way down the floor. We tell the guys, hey, if you go out of bounds, you have to stop right where you went out of bounds. It's an automatic turn. You have to bring the ball back to the middle and then go again.
And then go again. Yeah.
So we give the defense an automatic turn if they go out of bounds. So
Now,
then we
I
say,
would imagine some kids, like some of your faster kids, they're beating their defenders, and there maybe 1 or 2 turns. Does that
yes, yes.
happen a lot? I would.
It happens, and we try to encourage our guys to match up with different partners every day, so you get a different looks. Sometimes you'll have a really
Yeah.
quick guard. Sometimes you'll have like a bigger guy. I think it's good, because once again in our defense with the quick pickup, you're going to guard different types of players. You're going to be in different types of scenarios, and even if it's really tough, I feel like we're getting better. Like even
Right.
some kids might get 1 turn and then they get blown by, and that's okay, because and then I emphasize to guys like, hey, all I need you to do is turn them 1 time, and you did that. Like for the purpose of the
Mm.
drill, it might not have worked, but in a game, if
Yeah,
you
that's a good
time, we're
point.
trapping
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we try to turn to a positive, try to be really encouraging to them. And, we try not to be too hard on them. If like, I'm more hard on guys if they do things that I feel like if they don't do things they're capable of doing. So if they have bad body language or a
Right.
bad teammate or a bad attitude, I feel like
Yeah.
you're in control of that. But if kid's faster than you, or you miss a shot, you turn the ball over, like I feel like that's okay, because we want our kids to not fear failure or to fear
That's
mistakes.
right.
So, we try
Or
to,
fear you that you're going to come
right,
down on
yeah,
them for making a
exactly,
mistake. That's the
exactly.
worst, right? Yeah.
Right. You need your kids to play with a level of confidence if you're going to play this way and press. Like the kids got to believe they're doing the right thing. And I think the big thing is when you give this level of freedom, a lot of times your kids are hesitant to go trap. They're not sure if it's the quote unquote right time to trap. So
That's right. Yeah.
we have to reinforce every day. Like there's no right or wrong time to trap, but when you go, you have to go. I think
Mm,
one of the other big killers is indecision. Like you can't be a guy that's
yes.
no man's land. Like you're going to trap. Oh no, I'm not. Oh, but now my teammate's pulling up, so now we're all out of position. So I always tell guys like, look, you might choose the quote unquote wrong time to trap, but if you choose to go, we're all going. Like when one guy goes, we're all going. We're committed to it. It
Yeah.
makes it unpredictable, makes it hard to scout and prepare for. And usually, if we play hard enough, we're able to get away with it anyway.
That makes sense. And I should have probably asked this question in the beginning, and maybe I did, and don't remember what the answer was. This is chock full of great information. But if you boil this all down, what are you trying to achieve with this press?
Ultimately, we are trying to force turnovers.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think um, a lot of coaches that run this type of press, they'll say, "Oh, our goal is not to force turnovers. Our goal, and these are coaches that force 20 plus turnovers a game, and say your goal isn't to force turnovers, and you're forcing 20, 25 turnovers a game." Said our goal ultimately is we want to force live and ideally live ball turnovers, but also we want to force pace. Kind of like
Mm,
what I've talked about a few other times. We
yeah,
want to
okay.
force the pace of the game. A lot of teams don't want to play fast like we do, or they think they do, but they don't really know what that means. They don't really know what
Right.
playing fast means. So we want to force tempo and force pace. So we want to force them to play the speed and the type of game that we play every day, and they likely don't. So again, that gives our guys a level of comfort, and they go, okay, like the faces change. We're playing a good team, we're playing good players, but this is the same style of basketball we always play. They're just a little bit better players. So we know what we need to do. Whereas if you allow your opponent to control the tempo of the game, a lot of times, if you don't play this way or put pressure on the other team, the better team, the more talented team can dictate tempo. They can kind of figure out the terms of engagement, how the game's going to be played. Is it going to be a walk it up? Is it going to be a fast break? Are we going to
Hmm.
run a set every time? Um, and a lot of teams in our state, quite frankly, they run sets all the time. Coming down, set it up, run a play. So I don't want them to run plays. I want them to play. Like that.
Yeah,
That's how our
yeah.
guys play. So we want them to play the way that we play. And if we can force turnovers along the way, that's a positive. And we were good at that this year. I mean, we averaged 14 steals a game. We forced over 24
Mm,
turnovers a game. Those are
wow.
both one in the state and they're school records. And we needed some of that. Like part of it was also we needed to create offense for our guys because we had good players, not a ton of size, and the teams we played against, they're difficult to score on. So a lot of it was
Mm,
generating offense for our guys as well, and it lets
yep.
you play more guys, it lets you play more players. I mean, we're playing 9 guys every night, and a lot of teams will only play six or seven. So
Yeah.
sometimes it makes depth a factor on your opponent's end too. If they don't want to play more than 6 or 7 players and they're forced to go into that bench a little bit, sometimes it can give you a little bit of an advantage.
Kind of like the Grinnell system, if you've
Yeah.
studied that a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
hopefully we stop people a little better than,
You what?
than that.
What did you say?
I said, hopefully we don't give up as many layups or open
Oh, right. Yeah,
as
yeah,
they
yeah. What is in your opinion, what is the difference between, and I love it, it's kind of a Frankenstein, like you said, of a bunch of different presses. But what is the difference between this matchup press and the run and jump?
Hmm. I, I honestly think they're almost the same. My
Mm-hmm.
my definition, I think run and jump might be a little more rigid because a lot of times run and jump, you have your set matchups,
Yeah.
where you're guarding your man every time, no matter where he is on the floor, full court or half court. Very similar trapping principles with the run and jump, with the trapping the turns and whatnot. The matchup press is more you go to your spot and you pick up the closest guy. So it almost starts in a zone. That's how I teach it at the beginning.
Okay.
Kids, as they get more comfortable with it, won't even start at the zone spot. So they'll just go straight to a guy. But I always tell guys, like, essentially, when we're starting like on a made bucket, we're setting up almost in a diamond press, and then you find somebody. And if there's no one in your area, you back up until you find somebody, and then that's your man until you get switched off or until you go to trap or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think the matchup is more about putting guys in certain spots rather than letting the offensive positioning dictate our defensive players are. So I know I'm going to have my guards or my certain guy, my attackers up here every time in the matchup. Whereas if it's more of a straight full court man run and jump, if they're matched up with a guy who's back here, then they might be back here guarding them rather than up here. Like I don't really care offensively who they put up here. We're gonna match up and then just go to work and make the press look as much the same for us as it can every time and look different for our opponents.
Yeah, and plus, if you're running 9 guys too, those matchups change significantly. So,
Yeah.
you could have it all mapped out in the beginning of the game, which is fine, but then somebody gets hurt, or you bring in the next 4 guys that, maybe your second guy isn't as quick as the first guy, and it kind of breaks all down anyway. So they all have to be practiced and ready to go. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if you were, and we'll leave with this question, if I'm a youth coach, I'm listening to us talk about your matchup press right now, what have you learned that could get them quickly down the road to implement something that looks like this? What's your biggest takeaways and learnings?
Making sure you are fully committed to it and that you fully believe in it. I always think that kids are a lot smarter than people give them credit for. They can tell if you're just trying something because you saw it online or
saw
something.
It on Twitter,
right. And you just
so
want
like
to
Coach
try it.
Carter put a couple of clips up there, and I'm gonna go try to do it.
Right, but then as soon as you give up a layup or two, now you're angry and you're anxious, and now you're going to take the press off. I mean, you've got to fully believe in it, and you'll teach it better. I feel like when you fully believe in something, you're committed to it, you teach it better, you adapt better, your kids believe in it, and I think that overall it lends itself to the success of it. Like anything else, there's going to be good and bad days. There's going to be good and bad plays. But it's kind of like the old zone thing. Like people always say you shouldn't play zone because then you'll give up threes. When I say, well, if you're playing man to man, you give up threes. You don't switch to zone. You say you need to guard better. And I think it's the same with the press. Like you're going to give up easy baskets here and there. You're going to give up easy baskets in your half court defense too. That doesn't mean that you stop playing defense altogether or that you completely change whatever you're doing. You just, usually you emphasize that you do it better. I think like Shaka Smart said once, he said, before you make any big changes, do it better. It sounds simple,
That's brilliant.
but it sounds simple, but I think it makes sense. Like if something's not going too well, then, work on it and make it better. Don't abandon it. I think over time, it's been a good weapon for us because most teams we play, we're the only pressing team they'll play. And even if we're not, nobody that I've seen in our state presses like we do. Not one team. So
really?
no, not one. Yeah. I mean, they may play man-to-man press. They may trap similar ways, but I haven't seen one team press the way that we do. So it makes us a unique prep. So if you don't spend time preparing and watching film with your guys, you better just have better players, or you better hope that we just play poorly or you play really well, because otherwise you're taking that preparation component out of it. And I think that gives us an advantage because most of the time when we're preparing for teams, teams do some different things and they have good players and players that have different skills and strengths. But by and large, by the time you get to January, February, you've seen basically everything you're going to see.
Yeah.
But when teams were preparing for us, they hadn't seen anything like us all season. So, we hung around in games that we probably had no business hanging around in, and we won games that we probably had no business winning. Just because I think we played extremely hard. That's one thing I got over and over. Coaches would say, you guys play so hard. Like you guys are the hardest playing team in the state. And I tell them, well, we have to. Tell our guys we don't have a choice if we're going to play this way in our league, and we're not going to give it every ounce of energy we have, then we're fooling ourselves. So I think it builds camaraderie. It gets more guys involved. But I think that's the big thing to young coaches or coaches that are looking to implement this is just have a strong stomach, have a belief in it. When you decide to commit to it through the ups and downs. And That doesn't mean you don't try to improve, because you do, but I
Yeah.
don't. It's something that you can abandon after a couple weeks or a month. Like, it's something that you got to go through the ups and downs with and learn, and it'll get better and better and better, and it will be effective. You will figure out how to make it effective. It just might take a little bit of time, trial and
Well,
error.
and I like that thought process too, because you're right. We see a shiny object and we see Coach Carter running this really well, but what's missing is the hours that you spent in the gym trying to perfect it. And I'm sure day one it was pretty ugly. And
Yeah.
even game one, it was like, oh boy,
Oh yeah.
I want to crawl in a hole,
Yeah.
right? Or I shouldn't have done this. I should have stuck,
Oh
should
yeah.
have stuck with that diamond press.
Yeah. Exactly. No,
Yeah.
unfamiliar is scary.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
unknown is
yeah.
scary, but it can be really rewarding though.
And I think this is a good point too, is, you know, you mentioned, you're doing something that other teams aren't doing.
Mm,
I hear that message from a lot of coaches, but you're not doing it for the sake of just doing something different.
mm,
You're kind of forced because of who your competition is, but two, your thought process is, well, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make a decision, but I'm going to grow with it. And, I think, one, you have to like it, but you hear what I'm saying? It's just,
yeah.
you don't want to do something just to do it because, Coach
No.
Carter, you saw it on Coach Carter's Twitter feed, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you gotta believe in it. I truly believe anything that you want your kids to do well as a leader, you have to truly, truly believe in what you're doing, what you're teaching. Because I think kids can tell if you don't.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and
Yeah,
kids got
absolutely.
confidence. Yeah, they got to have confidence in it, even if it's the quote unquote wrong thing. If you do it, I mean, there's how many ways to skin a cat. I mean, how many different styles of play have been
Correct.
successful,
That's right.
But I think the common denominator is the belief that those coaches and those teachers have in their system. So if you believe in, you spend some time in it, I think that'll translate to success on the court ultimately.
And I want to emphasize that message because, we said something offline too, is, we were laughing at each other that we're saying the same things to our players. And it's nice to have these conversations because sometimes you feel like you're on an island.
Mm-hmm.
And even more so, like, well, of course we have parents to work with, and who are, the dad was a, Division I player at Kentucky, and you're coaching his kid, and he's saying, well, we ran a diamond. Why don't you run in a diamond?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always say this, there's just 101 ways to play this game.
Yeah.
I'm picking out a small portion of it because I believe that, one, I believe in it, or whatever I believe that we can do it. I believe I have the athletes to do this small little thing. It
Yeah.
might be unconventional, it might be conventional, but I'm going to take all of this huge library of basketball and pick a chapter, or pick something from every chapter, the press break, right? The offense, the defense, and then work on that. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Coach, I appreciate your time. This has absolutely been educational for me and a ton of fun. This is exactly what I was looking for. I've been teetering, playing. I couldn't quite crack the nut on some of these things. Didn't practice it enough because I was like, I don't have the plan. I think now, for me personally, this is a great plan. I think for all coaches seeing this, I think they'll get inspired by what you're doing, and we appreciate all that you do for the kids and for the coaching community, Coach. Any last words?
I don't think so. Just thank you so much for having me on, and love sharing the game, love talking basketball. It's a blessing and honor to be able to coach and be able to share with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Take care and best of luck in this upcoming season, and looking forward to your next big thing.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate it.
take care.
Thank you. You too.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.